United with Christ. Meet local churches with open doors, serving throughout the Border Valley community and sharing the truth and hope of God's love and salvation. A presentation of Life Christian Broadcasting Television. And now, United with Christ.
Good morning, family. It's Lisa Bacchus again from Westside Pregnancy Center. This is going to be our last episode with you. We don't know when we're coming back, but I'm super excited to have Mark Cavaliere with me, major mover in the pro-life in the entire Southwest area. Don't be so shy. Mark has Southwest Coalition for Life, which encompasses 40 Days for Life. He's going to explain that to us, and also Her Care Connect Sidewalk Outreach. Mark, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Here.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to put a quick plug in. Remember that our number is down at the bottom. We're with Westside Pregnancy Center. We haven't opened up yet. It'll be a couple of months, but we're looking for volunteers. Anything from volunteers that want to be trained to counsel young women and be an advocate for them and help them change their mind from killing their babies to mothering their babies or adopting their babies. Our number is 703-3001 at the bottom of your screen. Please call us. We also need people just to put baby clothes away. We're going to have a wonderful little store where the girls will learn things. We'll have training videos for them, and they'll earn as they learn. They'll be able to go get diapers, get baby clothes. Just a wonderful outreach. Love for you to come by and visit us at Westside Community Church. We have our location there. We're Westside Pregnancy Center. But you've heard about us, and I want you to know about the work that's going on in Las Cruces and El Paso under Mark. Mark, tell us something about your group.
Oh, well, it's been amazing. It's been a whirlwind ever since we first got started. We started in Las Cruces in 2014. The community there in the City of the Crosses was really surprised to learn that an abortion center was going to be opening there in Las Cruces. And so we responded immediately with a 40 Days for Life campaign. This is a kind of a now global phenomenon. It's a biannual campaign where churches unite across denominational lines to come out together as one body in Christ to pray and fast for an end to abortion in a peaceful, prayerful presence. It's not a protest. It's just a prayer vigil right there as that last sign of hope for women who are considering abortion, and that first sign of mercy as well for those coming out after their abortion to help them find healing. And so we did that vigil, and the goal is to create a 40-day chain of unbroken prayer by people taking 1-hour shifts and responding to Christ's call when he says, could you not keep watch with me for 1 hour?
And you're in the middle of one right now, I know, because the clinic that we're out, Dr. Thayer's in Santa Teresa, his horrible clinic, we're just thrilled to have your people out there. They're peaceful, they're loving, they're prayerful, they're such a good influence, and we have seen a huge drop where we usually have between 20 to 25 cars. We're averaging about 9 or 10 cars. So I can't believe that it's not people driving by saying, I prayed for a sign, even if I'm not any kind of believer. I prayed for a sign, and these people are here, and that's that sign, and they keep on driving by.
And that's exactly what we hear a lot of times. And there's been workers who have converted and left the abortion industry, namely
Yay.
Abby Johnson, who there's the movie coming out about later this week. But she has said that on the days outside the Planned Parenthood she used to direct and manage, that on the days when there were Christians praying peacefully outside, that up to 75% of their appointments would be no-shows.
Hallelujah.
And the people on the sidewalk don't always know that. Sometimes the moms will just see that presence and just drive by and drive home, and you never were any wiser. It's very few, actually, who will stop and tell us and thank us for being there. Sometimes we get voicemails, calls from people saying, you know, I saw you out there. And we even encourage people to not even have any signs with words that may look like a protest, but to literally just be on your knees in prayer and be a sign with your body. And because everyone knows that is a peaceful person praying. And so often they say, you know, I saw someone out on their knees praying where no one in their right mind should be praying on their knees out on the sidewalk, and I knew that was my sign from God. And so it's a very powerful campaign. Anyone can learn more at 40daysforlife.com and find their local vigil. We have 3 local vigils going on. There's about 400 going on right now around the world, and it's been in over 56 countries now. It started right here in Texas, and it's now spread around the world. And there have been over 15,000 known babies saved. 186 abortion workers who have actually converted and left the abortion industry because of this peaceful witness. And now that has also led to 99 abortion facilities closing their doors permanently, including, my favorite of those is number 83, which was right in Las Cruces where we started. We did this 5 times. The 5th time was the first time we had an unbroken chain of prayer every day for 40 days straight, and the facility shut down 7 weeks later.
And they were only open for how long?
A grand total of 27 months.
Wow.
And that was in New Mexico, which a lot of people don't realize the laws there is it's one of the most abortion-friendly states in the nation, where abortion is legal up to the day of birth for any reason at all, with no parental consent laws. It's just a mess.
So a lot of people have probably heard about not just New Mexico, but the New York, because that just made big headlines. Tell us a little bit about that for people who don't watch the news or read the paper.
So the first thing to realize is that when Roe versus Wade, which was the landmark Supreme Court decision about abortion, when that passed, what that basically did was it actually made abortion protected by the federal government up to the day of birth for any reason at all, in all 50 states. Most people don't realize that. Now, what the judges have allowed is they've allowed some states to pass restrictions to make it more difficult to obtain those abortions.
Like in Texas, what are some of the
For example,
restrictions
in Texas, for example, they have at a certain stage in pregnancy, abortions are banned after a certain point. There's a 24-hour waiting period, for example. So a woman who's highly emotional and everyone's been yelling and hormonal perhaps, she can't go in and immediately get on the spot. She has to at least have 24 hours. Sometimes that time enough is for her to calm down and realize maybe this isn't the best thing for me.
How about age?
In Texas, there's a parental consent law, so that minors have to have parental consent and inform their parents to have an abortion. Although, unfortunately, there is in Texas a loophole through judicial bypass, and abortion providers like Planned Parenthood have worked that down to a science where they can get that done, and minors can still obtain abortion without parental consent. It's just not quite as easy.
And unfortunately, in El Paso, we have another loophole because we have Dr. Thayard again, our #1 abortionist. And go figure, our #1 preemie baby. I don't know how those two work together.
Right.
But you can have these schools take your 12-year-old who's supposed to get your parental consent. They can cross state lines, take him to Dr. Thayard. He can do the abortion. Your baby comes back home. You don't know unless there's complications.
Right. Yeah, and
it's sickening.
It is sickening, and he's close enough to the border where he's able to exploit the lack of laws in the state of New Mexico. Like I said, there's no restrictions at all, and so if you look at the map, you can see that the main abortionist in El Paso, Franz Thayard, has a secondary abortion center just not even a half mile over the state line for that sole purpose. And we've seen sometimes obviously when girls younger than 18, don't want their parents' permission. On the phone, they have said, oh yeah, just come over to our Santa Teresa location where we don't even have a 24-hour waiting period. You can get it done immediately there just if you don't want to wait. And they'll caravan sometimes and drive the women over and give them the abortion procedures there. And so it's really unfortunate. New Mexico is also one of the only a few states in the nation where state tax dollars through the state Medicaid program go to Planned Parenthood and abortion providers in the northern part of the state. And it's just a mess. And so a lot of people have heard about some of these headlines, like in New York, and I know like in Illinois, and there's been a few states where they're passing now abortion without restriction up to the day of birth. The crazy part is that's actually nothing new. I'm grateful that it's kind of waking people up to this reality, but the fact is that's how it's been in New Mexico and a few other in Colorado for a long time. So it's nothing really new, but it is something that we need to finally wake up and realize this is happening. And now they're even going further, and a lot of people don't realize this, but there are a lot of cases where, like any medical procedure, that the abortion doesn't, in their eyes, succeed, and it does not, the baby is somehow born alive before the abortion procedure is complete. And now they have a child, outside the womb, and sometimes as a preemie baby, if they're after 21, 22 weeks, sometimes they're able to survive on their own. Or older.
Yeah.
And in New Mexico, the guy goes up to the day of birth, up to 40 weeks. A woman her water could break, and she could say, you know what, I changed my mind, let's go down to Southwest Women's Options with the abortionist Curtis Boyd there. And there was even a woman a couple of years ago who flew from England, from the United Kingdom, to Albuquerque, New Mexico at 30 weeks pregnant because it was the cheapest deal she could get on an abortion was right here in New Mexico. So
Not the kind of tourist travel that we want.
no, and we don't want to be known
oh.
as the late-term abortion capital of the country, but that's what we are. So, and it's important to know there was recently a Senate bill in the state of New Mexico to try to, because there is, prior to Roe versus Wade, abortion was illegal in New Mexico, and that law is still on the books. It's just not enforceable because of Roe versus Wade. So they tried to strike that law, that state law. Now that they're getting worried about this new Supreme Court potentially overturning Roe versus Wade, and it didn't pass, it didn't fail. But we need to let people know that it didn't change anything. It's still happening up to the day of birth for any reason. So we still need people out praying. We still need people involved. And we see Texas license plates going to New Mexico all the time. We also see New Mexico plates coming here, even Arizona, Oklahoma plates coming for abortions in El Paso all the time.
Yeah, we're out on Saturdays if anybody wants to go to Dr. Thayer's clinic right outside of Santa Teresa. We're out there and we see girls from Albuquerque, which I don't know why, because there's a clinic there in Albuquerque, but we see them from all over Farmington, all over the Southwest coming down here to his clinic.
Right. And it's so, and a lot of people are feeling for the first time, like, what can I do about this? You know, it's getting worse and worse. Now they're passing the laws saying that those children born alive can't even be provided medical care because the intention was for the child to die. So they'll say, well, let's leave the child laying there and let nature take care of it.
So he'll just gasp to death and...
Yes. In fact, there's a nurse named Jill Stanek who speaks a lot about this issue out of Chicago, where she was not allowed to provide care, and she just had to basically hold this child until the child died. And now she's really raising an issue about is infanticide, and it's also raising interesting points to people that we've had abortion legalized for 46 years now. People are finally starting to realize, you know what, if I'm uncomfortable with infanticide, letting the child die post-birth, what's any different about the
2 months earlier
abortion just a week or two earlier, when it's just the only difference is location of the child? And so it's really starting to raise some questions and kind of cause a cultural shift. I saw a study recently that more people who are switching now because of these late-term and infanticide type issues that have been raised. More people are switching to identify as pro-life because of that, because it's just so apparently evil and radical.
Yeah, I think when it's nice and hidden and we can believe the lie that, oh, they're not formed, it's just like a little fish with gills, and the whole lie that's been told, and they don't show, I don't know if our camera can see this, so I'll put that in front of you.
That's a baby at 12 weeks gestation,
12 weeks.
Into the first trimester, and at that point the baby already has...
Twins.
And the baby already has everything that a child will have when they're born. They just need time to grow bigger. They already have all their organs, everything is there. They just need to grow, and that's at 12 weeks.
When I show these to girls out at the clinic, Dr. Thayer's clinic, they're like, no, that's not what it's like. I've already seen, and I'm like, you have seen wrong. Go see some medical sites.
Right, and that's why the nation's leading abortion corporation, Planned Parenthood, which has a very deceptive name, and they've spent a lot of money on marketing to try to convince people that they do good services, but when abortion is their primary service and their moneymaker, they intentionally will not show the ultrasounds. They will not provide that information. So it's not an informed choice, and many women are going in and have no idea, about the actual abortion procedure. They're just told, oh, it's just a clump of cells and tissue. We've heard that before. But I always like to point out, technically, biologically speaking, I'm just a clump of cells and tissue.
Yes.
But we're clumps of cells and tissue formed in the image and likeness of a loving God, and we're clumps and cells of tissue that are a dwelling place for an immortal soul. And and that started from that moment of conception. And as the science advances, they're actually learning more and more about the way that God forms us. And they've even found that at that moment of conception, and they attribute it to like the zinc chemicals or something, but there's even a flash of light at a microscopic level.
Equivalent to a couple of A-bombs, I think, is what they say.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
I didn't hear that. But they say that at a microscopic level, there's a little flash of light at that moment. And there's and even the American College of Pediatricians has said that that all biological research shows that the life of every human organism begins at conception until death, and that's just a biological fact. And so if at the very least too, I even point out that if we're considered legally dead when our heartbeat stops, why are we not at the very least considered legally alive when the heartbeat starts? And that's they've even found, as the technology gets better, at 16 days after conception, they've detected at smaller and smaller levels. So we really need to come out and pray, and we need to come out and pray and defend the life of our unborn brothers and sisters who can't speak for themselves.
Yeah, again, a person is a person, no matter how small. I'm thinking about what you just said about just letting that baby die and sitting there gasping. That's got to be horrible for nurses and that have to obey that doctor, but I'm thinking, I have my 92-year-old mom living with me at home.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was to get home today and she was on the couch gasping, and I said, oh, keep gasping, maybe you'll die, I'm going to go take a shower.
Right.
There would have to be some legal penalty to me.
Right.
If someone found out, a neighbor came over, or she was able to call somebody.
Right.
That's just ghastly.
Right.
Just ghastly.
Right. And it's really tragic, and so many of us have kind of been desensitized about thinking, oh, this is just a political issue, this is just that, all I need to do is maybe vote pro-life, and that we have to do that. That's important. However, you know, what I learned, what really was a landmark pivot point for me in living my pro-life faith, is that I realized I was spending too much time essentially petitioning Caesar to help my neighbor for me, and that's not what we're called to do. You know, the abortions are not happening at the White House. They're not happening at the state capitol building. They're happening just right here, just minutes away from where we live, where we work, where we worship. That's where the abortions are taking place. And so that's where we need to be, to show up. And if the church just shows up, these places shut down. Like in Las Cruces, in spite of the fact that this is one of the most abortion-friendly states in the nation, the community came out to pray. They came out in love. They came out to be a sign of Christ's witness and hope. They prayed for the conversion of the workers, and able to pass out information about, here's the free, loving pregnancy help services by these pro-life pregnancy centers just right down the road. And that's all it took. And when they did close, the hotline for the chain that was in Las Cruces said, oh yeah, we had to close our Las Cruces branch because we were having financial trouble because all of a sudden we weren't getting enough patients. And what that means is that the church showed up and was helping these women to the point where it was no longer profitable for these, because they're just in it for the blood money.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't take a lot, it just takes an hour of prayer. That's all we ask.
Yeah, well, you know what, on that note, we have a video that I wanted to show the first time, and if we can get that video started, we'll see you in a minute.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Hi, welcome back. Again, this is Lisa Bacchus with Westside Pregnancy Center, a new pregnancy center that be praying for us, that we will be able to open up. We have a beautiful facility. If you'd like to come see the facility, if you're interested in being a volunteer with us, all kinds of different jobs, we'd love to have you. We're just off the crossroads, Mesa and Country Club. Mesa and Donovan, sorry. But let's get back to Mark. Mark, what do you want to talk about now? You want to talk about this movie that's coming out that we're all very excited about?
Yes, you know, we were talking in the last segment about the laws and how there's all those problems, and you know, sometimes we feel so frustrated because there's not much that we feel like we can do about the issue. And a lot of people will also point out that, you know, sometimes just focusing only on the laws is important, but it's not enough, because at the end of the day, this violence of abortion is not going to end until we change hearts and minds. When we change individual hearts and minds to really have conversions of heart. And that comes through, a lot of times conversions come through stories. Throughout Scripture, throughout history, you know, powerful stories change hearts and minds. And so, and in our modern culture, the best way to convey a powerful story is through movies.
A movie.
Everyone loves
a good movie.
A good movie. I'm a big movie buff, and we're really blessed and really excited that we do have a perfect tool for each and every one of you to do exactly that. To go out. It's coming out this week. The movie is called Unplanned. It tells the story of a former Planned Parenthood director who was a pro-abortion advocate for 8 years.
Won their prize for number one.
She was their Employee of the Year, and she personally helped to sell over 22,000 abortions throughout her career. And she was an abortion champion. She used to go out and just you say horrible things about these pro-lifers out praying in front of her facility. She directed the facility that was in Bryan, Texas, which is where this whole 40 Days for Life thing originally started about 11, 12 years ago, was outside of her facility. And so she ended up having a conversion of heart and actually joining the people on the sidewalk praying outside the same facility that she used to manage and direct. The facility eventually shut down.
Beautiful.
It has become since a pro-life medical pregnancy help center. The two medical directors are both former abortionists who are now devout Christians who run the facility. And it's now, and there's a back office that now serves as the international headquarters for this global 40 Days for Life movement that has gone around the world, and it all started right there on the sidewalk outside that facility. This movie tells the story about Abby Johnson, and it's coming out on Friday publicly. We do have a few private screenings.
On Thursday.
On Thursday, a day early.
The 28th.
On the 28th, yes. So you can see the movie early before the general public. We have a screening that's being hosted by the Westside Pregnancy Center. We also have a Coalition for Life screening. Unfortunately, sold out ours. All the tickets are accounted for. There's a couple other early screenings going on, but anyone can either call Westside Pregnancy Center for that private screening, or we also want to
Or Westside Community Church. Westside Community Church.
Westside Community Church. And you can also go to unplanned.com. Which is the movie's website, unplanned.com, and you can find tickets even. I think it's unplannedtickets.com is a second site where you can search all the showings showing this movie in the area. It's showing at 2 Cinemarks, the premiere, Las Cruces is showing it, and we want to make sure that every single seat is sold out, because this is going to send a strong message to Hollywood. It's going to send a strong message to our culture, and I'm excited to send a strong message to Planned Parenthood, because so far they have not yet responded to this movie. But if this is a big hit movie, it's going to put them in a corner and force them to respond to it, because it reveals who Planned Parenthood is, what they do. It shows behind the scenes. You see what she saw, and I want to encourage everyone to see it. This is one case where I would say ignore. The movie was rated R.
No reason to be rated R.
There's
I already saw it.
now
We've got a preview.
We saw an early preview. There's no profanity. There's no sexuality. There's no nudity. There's no violence
There's very little blood. I think at one point you see a lady from the knees down, some blood dripping on the floor in her shower.
There is a little bit, but it's nothing. There are PG-13 movies that are far more.
I would take my 10-year-old. Sorry, I would go as far down as 10 years old. That's what I'm telling people.
I would definitely say high school age and up and any younger, if the parents want to see it first. But kids need to see it to immunize them against this organization that is getting into the public schools. They're trying to get these what they call sex education programs to encourage and undermine the parent-child relationship, to build trust with them, to say, you know what, your parents, you don't want to go to them. They're not going to trust or understand, but you can come to us. And so we need to immunize our kids by letting them see the truth about this organization. The movie is a movie about God's hope, about God's redemption, about God's mercy over an R-rated sin. And so don't hesitate to see it because of that.
Yeah. And it's so well done.
It's a very
a
well
lot
done
of times
movie.
I love pure flicks, but a lot of times they're a little cheesy, they're a
Yes.
little slow, they're beautiful messages. This is so excellently done.
This, yeah,
The
this,
music, the acting, the scenery, it's so excellently done.
Yes. I'm guilty of being pretty critical about kind of campy Christian movies, but this is not one of those. This is not. It does not in any way strike you as even as a Christian movie in general. But the message is undeniable. It's powerful. We've already had at that early screening. We were blessed to go able to see. It turns out one of the guests there was a pro-choice nurse practitioner from here in El Paso. And afterwards, the next day, I heard when she left, she said, "You know what? I've totally changed the way that I look at things, and that everyone needs to see this movie." And she was grateful for it because she's now pro-life. So this is a movie. This is an opportunity to change hearts and minds. We want to make sure we fill every seat. Go to unplannedtickets.com. Bring your friends and family. Go to show the movie. It's going to tell. And what happens is if all those theaters are filled, the theaters who want people to come buy popcorn, they'll extend the movie and show it another week, another 2 weeks, and let that movie reach more souls for a culture of life in our communities. So I cannot emphasize enough, if you only see one movie this year, make it Unplanned.
And you're sold out, but again, Westside Community Church has free tickets.
Free tickets.
They bought a whole theater, and you just need to call, sign up, and they'll have a ticket there for you. If you show up at the movie theater, they might not have it for you, but if you call Westside Community Church, they will write your name down.
Again?
I don't have the number. I'm going to be in so much trouble with them.
But,
we're at 201 East Sunset, Westside Community Church, same place that is allowing us to house our new clinic.
And, you know, the movie's really good because it shows the good and bad about both sides. It shows the time period in Abby's life where she genuinely believed that she was helping women. The lies of Planned Parenthood were not yet exposed to her. And it really humanized these, you know, that helped us to see that the people working in these facilities, they're not the enemy. You know, the enemy is principalities, you know, not flesh and blood, as Scripture tells us. But so we need to be praying for them because they've got a lot at stake on the line, eternally speaking. The people working in these facilities, we're not there not to just to save babies, but to save them as well. And if we can help save them and help their conversion, sometimes, in fact, we had recently a woman come speak at our March for Life, Ramona Trevino, who also was a different Planned Parenthood director. And there were people praying outside. She ended up having a conversion of heart. And when they could not find anyone to replace her, they shut the whole clinic down.
I love it.
So sometimes just by being there as a presence for them, helping them to find that hope and mercy of Christ.
Well, we had even, I think, more notable was Dr. Levantino in Las Cruces. If you can tell us that in 30 seconds.
Dr. Levantino is a former abortionist, lives in Las Cruces, did over 1,200 abortions himself, and he actually plays the abortionist in this movie Unplanned during the scene of Abby's conversion to lend his life experience to the scene to make it authentic. And the nurse is also a former abortion worker in the scene, and so they make it as authentic as possible. And he lives right there in Las Cruces in the movie.
Mark, thank you for coming out with us, and thank you for watching this. Again, go see the movie.